In the previous lesson, we saw how we can work with different types of content in After Effects. So we imported many different types of content like video, audio, and images, and also we use PSD file containing all the layers that we can manage them in different ways inside Adobe After Effects. So we can move from Photoshop into After Effects and also the other way, so we can export everything for Photoshop. We can do this also for the Maxon Cinema 4D. So just to continue the import examples, I can import also a 3D file. So if I go to File, Import, and search for a 3D file, and in this case, I have here a folder for the Cinema 4D video course that also you find in the channel. And I'm gonna go down here and take one of these lessons that I created for Cinema 4D. So I want to have something really simple, like just this text in 3D. I'm gonna select the C4D file. This is the format for Cinema 4D. I'm gonna import it. I'm just gonna wait for a few seconds. Okay, the bigger is the scene, the more it's gonna take. And this is the file right here. So you see it's kind of a track, or it has like a duration and frame per seconds and everything. But well, we're gonna talk about 3D in another video, but this is just to show you that you can use it. And if I right click, I can create a new composition from the selection, and you will see here that it's gonna have these parameters scene aware by Maxon, and this is about again like 3D and rendering, and this is the preview here in the composition. So we can work with cameras in Cinema 4D and do a lot of other stuff that we're gonna see at the end of the course, not right now. I'm just gonna continue to focus a little bit on the project and on the composition panel right here, especially. Let's start with the project panel. And in this lesson, we're gonna discover a little bit more about this. So when we create like complex composition and or we work with folders, things could get like out of hand because we have a lot of files that we imported, and it's going to be difficult to like understand in which composition they have been placed or something like that. So for example, when I want to know if I'm using this file first, so you can see these are layers from Photoshop. So if I want to like retrieve this file, you can see that this has been used one time. And if I want to know where it has been used, I can right click and I can find it or reveal. Well, I can reveal also the folder where this is stored in my computer, or I can reveal into the composition, which is this one here, video group 1 layer 4. So if I click, you see that this is layer 4 of this video group right here, which is another composition called video group. So this is a quick way you can find that particular asset. Now be careful, because if you double click here on this track in the timeline, or here in this file in the project panel, or anywhere you can click on that, it's going to bring you to the footage. So don't mistake, don't so that was the layer, and this is the actual footage, and this is the composition. So you need to understand that in the preview here we could have different things, so depending on what we select. So they are similar because they have similar tools down here, you see, and also here in the composition. Now one thing that it changes is this timeline, when you can set an in point and out point. We're going to talk about this later, but the rest is practically the same. So distinguish the composition from the footage. Now I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to the composition. Another way to distinguish and to see how a composition is made. So for example, this one here, which is video group 1, is to go inside the flowchart or project flowchart. Again, this is kind of a management tool. So if I click here, you can see it's going to open again in this central area, and I can expand this a little bit. I can move by pressing the scroll wheel. It's going to pan, and if I scroll wheel if I scroll the scroll wheel, it's gonna like move up and down, and then I can use these scroll bars or use the the space bar again to go to the pan. So you can see these are the composition right now that I see here. And if I click here, I can expand and see what's inside all these compositions. And you discover that a composition like this one here is a really complex composition. And inside this composition, you find other composition, which is the Photoshop folder. So this is like a nested composition. You can check the hierarchy essentially of that particular composition. You can also organize it differently. So you can have a full picture of what you're doing in a composition, and these things could get really complex. Like composition is basically a container. So you can do like a container inside another container, and then in there you have the files and the assets. So this is a great way to distinguish the asset and the footage from the composition that you're creating. So another really interesting management tool. Now also, if I double click here, it's going to bring me to that particular asset. And then I can go back here and then double click again and then see this other, and then double click again and see this other asset. These are all parts of a same composition. Now it's really easy to place a composition inside another composition. So to do nesting and to create a hierarchy. For example, here, this is the 3D composition that we just imported. So if I click on this composition and I bring it down here, now this is going to go inside the video group, which is already inside another composition. So things could get really complex. So if you check this in the diagram, in the hierarchy, you can see that this is like the um, bigger container, and then inside we have this other composition here, and then inside this composition we have another composition, and that's the file from Cinema 4D. So you can like track back all your links and how things are structured, how they are organized. So really handy and sometimes complex tool, but you can definitely use it. Now I'm going to create a new project here, and just going to save this and just create a new composition like we did previously. So we saw we can create a preset. We can also modify our own preset. I want to do this like unlock the aspect ratio. I want to have like 3000 pixels for 1000 pixels and 20, let's say 25 frames per second, and let's say 1 minute 30 animation. And I want to change also the background here, something like a little bit golden or like yellowish, something like that. Okay, so this is the new composition right now, the new project, and this is going to be our lesson 5, which I'm going to save right away into my folder. I want to get a video from another website that is really interesting. We used pixels in the previous video, but also this one here is really good. It's going to be Videovo. And you can define here some filters. If you apply filters, you can check for the free clips, and you can also check by duration. So if I know I cannot go up higher than 1 minute and 30 seconds, so I'm going to decrease this. You can check also the resolution. Let's go for the Full HD. And also the license type. We can go like Creative Commons, and then you have categories here, and so you can just apply some filters. So I want to have here, I search for cat and woman, so I want to get a video here that I like, and I remove some filter, so I want to have this one here, and we can see the author and all the other information down here. And so this is free download. I can click here and I just click again, free download, save it. And well, if you want to know more about Videovo, you find a video guide in the channel explaining additional features for this. And I've also selected this other one, which is kind of a smaller format, HD. So it's quicker, and you can select either one or the other or whatever you want from Videovo. So I'm going to go back into my composition and import the file. just as we know how to do, and you can drag and drop. You can just open it like this, and it's gonna take some time for the 4K video. So I'm gonna start with the second one. I created a folder here called Videvo where I store everything that I download from there. So that's the other file, by the way, and this is the one that I just downloaded. So again, we can see the format. This is MOV, so it's another format, which is not visible directly in Windows in the preview, but I can see it right here. And again, it's telling me the FPS and the size, the file size, the color depth, and everything that we know so far. Now, if I click and drag this inside, just as we experienced before, we have like some gaps here on the side. So let's talk about a little bit this panel, and now we can visualize and we can check the various parts of the image. So if I go here, I can have some view options. So I can like turn on and off things that are in the visualization, but right now I just see everything. And also some of these can be found also down here. For example, you can, let me show you here, activate the transparency grid. So instead of viewing the background, I can see the transparency checkerboard, or I just can apply the standard background that I've chosen. Again, we have composition flowchart, and this is way simpler than the other. So it's just, you see one single video file. And then I can do also the mini flowchart, which is this one here, kind of a pop-up flowchart. And well, let's go down here and let's see what other things we have. Now, first, navigation. We can use this to make it fit, and we can zoom 100% the file size, or 50 to make it fit, or maybe less. We can scroll the scroll wheel to go back and forward. We can click also the scroll wheel to do the pan, or we can hold the spacebar and the left mouse to do the pan. Now, there are many ways to do the same thing. Now, another way is also going here to the top. So right now we are in the selection tool, which means that I can click and select this clip right here. But if I move here, this is going to be the pan again. So I can pan around, and this is going to be the zoom. If I click, it's going to zoom in. If I hold the Alt key and click with the left mouse, it's going to go back. And if I click and drag, it's going to define an area that I want to like get close to, kind of a blow up effect. And then to go back to the original state, I'm going to type like 25 or 33 so we can see everything. So right click is going to open up a pop-up menu. So anything that you push on your mouse is going to do something. But the most important things is the scroll wheel, because you can scroll in and out, and you can pan by clicking the scroll wheel. Or you can do it again from here. Let's go back to the selection. Now let's go down here. Now this is the resolution that you see here in the preview. So this could be auto, could be full resolution. So this is going to be like the maximum quality for the video. Now, if I play back the video, I need to go in the timeline, press the space bar, and it's going to play back. Now, this green line is going to be, longer to render. It's going to be a longer process to render this up, since we are checking this at the maximum quality. And this is only HD, is not even 4K or higher quality formats. So it takes time. So the more you select here, and the more it's going to take time. If you select a quarter, you can see it's going to be a little bit blurred and with less quality, but we can still see the animation. We can still see what's happening in the video. We can be way more quicker here in pre-rendering the video. You can also customize this and like render every 8 pixels. So it's going to be like even, you see, with a lower resolution, but it's going to be even faster. So depending what you need to do. If you need to check the quality of the image, you want to go back to full. If you want to render quicker or pre-render quicker all the various effects that you have applied, you can go to quarter or even lower. Okay, now I finished to download the other video, which is way heavier, and I'm going to click and drag, and it's going to bring it right here. So this is 4K, and this is why it's so heavier. It doesn't have too many frames per second, But and this is also giving me the other information like trillions of colors, so a lot of colors in there. That's why it's so heavy, and probably it's kind of a raw format in a way, so it's not too compressed. So we have like the maximum quality or almost the maximum quality, and so we definitely need to uh, make these less heavy here in the preview. So if I want, I can just delete the other, so we can just work with one. And you can see this is going to be really, really heavy to render. It's going to take more time. And let's also zoom a little bit out. You can see it doesn't fit. Well, it fills the composition. In this case, we don't have gaps like the other, but we need to always decide how we want to adjust this. So when we are in select mode, we can click here in the corners and we can, make this perhaps smaller or like arrange it differently. And if you don't hold the shift key, it's gonna like also distort it. So make sure you hold the shift key so if you can scale it, maintaining the proportions. Now again, if it's like this, it's gonna show the background. If you want to cover the background, you can also do it in the other video. Just click and drag and push it here and cover all those areas in the background. Okay, you can move this like clicking with the left mouse and holding. You can move it around freely, or you can hold again the shift key if you want to move it like precisely on the X and on the epsilon, so kind of constrain the movements orthogonally. Right, so we decide is part of the image. So it's kind of cropping out the things that we don't care and like leave the things that we are more interested in. So it's kind of creating a frame, creating a shot, a crop. So down here, let's see what else we have. So this is fast preview. So if we turn this off, we're gonna have a final quality. Otherwise, we can use adaptive resolution and may put this to auto. So this is gonna be based on your machine and your device. And then we also have wireframe, which means that it's gonna only show me the structure here. And you can do this also with shortcut keys. For example, for this, we can, let me just go back here and make this adaptive. This is the transparency grid that we saw also before. Now, I need to move this to see the transparency because right now we filled everything up with pixels. And now we have the mask and shape visibility. Now, for this, we need to have some mask and to have some shapes or paths. We don't have those right now. We're going to talk more about these things later. And you'll find also like other tools here for vector graphics and things that are not images, but they are composed by paths essentially. And then we have region of interest. Now to set this, we need to hold the Alt key, click and drag, and it's going to create this region that then I can change. I can move the image there on the background. I can move these kind of a frame within the frame when we want to concentrate on only one area of our animation. And we can also turn this off. Once it's defined, I can turn that on and off. And then we have the visibility of the grid, rulers, guides. We're gonna talk about this later on. And then you have title, action save, proportional grid, and so on. So this is to work more precisely in your composition. Then again, we have RGB, so red, green, and blue. We can see the red channel, the blue channel, the alpha channel. Now this is all white because we don't have transparency or emptiness. We always have pixels here. The pixels fill up everything. But if I click and drag this here, you can see this is black because there are no pixel in there. So this is how you can also check the alpha channel from a particular file that you have imported. And again, we talk about RGB alpha channel in another video. And then you have exposure. Now you can increase the exposure, decrease the exposure. This is like working with your cameras, changing the dimension of the aperture. So the more it's open, the more light will come in. The more you close, the more it's going to be darker. And you can also reset by clicking here. And then you have take snapshot. Now take snapshot is only going to work in your file here. It's not going to like save anything outside After Effects with this. And then you can just like move in another part of the video and then activate the previous snapshot like this. If you alt and click, you can see like the two overlapping. So this could be used like for as measuring things. I don't know, confronting two different part of the image. Now let's move on the. I want to go back here and let's move on up here on the right side. So every time we select something, so this is nothing is selected, but if I use the first selection tool and I select here, I can then check also the properties on the right. Now these are 5 properties. So anchor point, which is kind of the pivot, position, scale, rotation. These are the main transformations, the transforming tools. And then you have opacity. And you also have here the rotation tool and the anchor point tool, or also called the pan behind tool. And then these are vector graphics tools and then raster graphics tools. We're going to talk about those later. So let's start with the selection. When you have the selection, you can move and you can scale. To rotate the image, you go here. Click the rotation, click and drag, and it's going to rotate. Now, all of these actions are inside the composition panel, and you can do this with your eyes. These are like, things that you can do by looking at the image. Otherwise, you can go here and make things more precise. So for example, here I rotated this without knowing the correct amount, but here I can set like a precise amount. So I can say, okay, I want to rotate 25%, and this is going clockwise, or you can also do counterclock if you go with the minus. So you can insert a specific value. So you either work here using your eyes, changing the transformation of the object, the move, rotate, and scale, or you can work here more precisely. So for example, I can set the position here precisely. So let's say I want to do 0, 0. Remember that we're working in a Cartesian field where 0, 0 is right here. But you can see that the most important point is the anchor point. So you also can select where the anchor point should be. So if I say 0, 0 in the anchor point, you can see that it's going to be there. And if I now rotate, it's going to rotate quite differently from before. So this is why it's important to have a defined anchor point and to understand what it is and how we can use it. So you can move the anchor point around, and that's going to affect the position of the file and the rotation, and basically everything else, like the scale. Also, I'm going to scale based on that anchor point. Now the scale can be constrained with the width and the height, or I can distort if I don't constrain them. Usually it's better to constrain, and then I can set up a precise scale like 80%, 80%, and then lock the proportions again. Now for the rotation, we also have the possibility to do more rotation turns. So if I say like I want to rotate this twice, so 2 times or 3 times, so nothing is going to happen here. But let's animate this. Let's start also to talk a little bit about animation. So I'm going to set this to 0, and this is the degrees that I'm using. And let's go here to the beginning of this file, and then I'm gonna set here the rotation. So I'm gonna click on this watch, and then I'm gonna move, like let's go to the end, and then let's change here to 3 turns, 3 times. So you can see place here 2 keyframes. We're gonna talk more about this later, but just to show you how quick it is and how easy it is to animate in After Effects. Now if I click and drag the CTI right here at the beginning, you can see is doing 3 turns. So this is one way we can animate. Now, if I want, I can also delete these keyframes just by selecting them and pressing with the left mouse and pressing the delete key. So now there's no animation. Well, the only animation is inside the video. We're not animating this asset like rotating, or we can also, of course, animate it, the anchor point, the position, the scale. But I want to show you the opacity, which I think is really interesting. So right now we are at 100%. So if I go back here, I can make this like appear little by little. Now, when you move inside the timeline with the CTI, if you hold the Shift key again and click and drag, it's gonna snap to the most important place. So like the beginning here. So I wanna activate the animation by clicking on the little watch, so the or stopwatch, and you can see also the alt click. You can remove the expression if you want. So you can apply also expression if which is more complex. Now I'm just gonna click here and insert 0. So 0 opacity means it's not gonna be visible, which means the alpha channel for that now is at the top, and it's totally black. And then I move this like 5 seconds and change the opacity to, let's say, 80%. So now we can see that if I click and drag, I can see the image slowly appearing from the background. And then you can move on. You can do also the opposite. So I can place another keyframe by clicking here, which is going to have 80% opacity, and then go to the end, hold shift, go to the end, set this 0, and it's going to automatically key that frame. So we have now 4 keyframes with a fade in and fade out effects. So this will be all for this video lesson. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe to the channel to stay updated for more videos. And also, if you want to thank us, support us, please join the channel as a supporter and check out all the courses and videos that you find already in the channel. So thanks, and see you in the next lesson.